Yeah, school was definitely not for me. I loved my friends and family and everybody there. Like, playtime was the best, but class time was really bad. And it got to a point I got asked to leave because I just disrupted so many people. In the back of the metro, there was an ad saying FHM, fun plus hard work equals money. Anyway, answered the advert, and I eventually got through the interview process and found myself doing sales, door-to-door, commission only. And I had to train myself to learn to think positively. And whenever I thought negatively, my goal was to catch myself.
What was your family's reaction to, I'm going to do entrepreneurship and sales?
Yeah, wow. It was quite extreme at the start. So I called my mom, told her what I was doing, and she was like, no son of mine's going to be a salesperson. That was her exact words. No son of mine's going to do sales. And she said, I've lined up an interview at the university to go and do environmental science. So she actually flew over.
From Australia?
From Australia. I think it was like a 32-hour flight, poor mum, to come and get me to come home. If it hasn't worked and I haven't gotten to running my own business and doing well, I'll come home, environmental science, sign me up. But if I do get there, then I want you to support me and let me be.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first ever episode of The Extra 5%, a podcast where we speak to successful entrepreneurs and sports people and really tap into their mentality and understand what it is they do that makes them so successful and really sets them apart. I'm Christian Dye, and in today's episode, you can expect to learn about how to get good at sales, how to stay disciplined and consistently be able to perform at your peak, how to deal with negativity from your friends and family, and much, much more. My guest today is Gilles Baudet. Gilles is the CEO and founder of the Interactive Team, a face-to-face direct sales company with offices all across the country, all the way down to Cardiff, up to Aberdeen, and everywhere in between. He's also one of the founding partners of the Power 22 Call Center, a direct telesales company based in Glasgow, with another office opening up in Sunderland. He's also recently back from the United States, where he was settling up the foundations for his expansion into the US. In addition to all of that, he's also a husband, father of two, and just an all-around good guy. So I could not think of a better person to start this podcast with. Gilles, welcome.
Christian, thank you.
I'm excited to have you here.
Yeah, I'm really, really grateful that I could be your first guest. Very excited. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. I think best place to start really, Gilles, is where Gilles started. So I think, obviously massively successful within sales and entrepreneurship. How'd you get started within the sales industry?
Well, that's a long question. I was a professional cyclist. That's what my previous life or previous career was. I've been cycling since I was like 8 years of age. So I lived in France for quite some years. I was a professional cyclist on European, predominantly French cycling teams, and traveled around Europe cycling. And then, so I was there from the ages of 19 all the way till 21.
Great.
And it was a fantastic experience traveling and racing all over Europe. And then I decided to come to Manchester for a weekend.
Right.
Yeah, and due to the performance enhancing drug side of, I guess, sport and especially cycling, I was really looking for another avenue to go down. And I came to Manchester for a weekend with another cycling buddy of mine at the end of the 2001 season, right, for the cycling season. And then I stumbled across sales. Like I was with a friend of mine called James, a dear friend still to this day, who actually lives in Dubai, who's also extremely successful. You should get him on this podcast.
Fantastic.
And yeah, we were living with his parents, and they were like just charging me £5 a week to stay in one of their spare rooms, which is incredibly generous and was great. Susan, his mum, used to have a lovely hot cooked meal for me every single night I got in. I really fell in love with Manchester. It was such a happening city. The people, the buildings, the fashion, just everything was going on. The bars, the nightlife, the day life, everything was just incredible. Because I wanted to move away from cycling, I didn't particularly want to go home back to Australia just yet because I knew my parents were extremely upset with me deciding to give in the cycling career after, I was 21. I'd been doing it seriously since I was 8 years of age. So I didn't really want to go home and feel the wrath of my parents, especially my father. So I decided to stay in Manchester, and I needed to get a job because the funds ran out pretty quickly. So James and I were scouring the newspapers. The internet wasn't really that big back then, so it was if you wanted to find a job, you would go into the back of newspapers, and there was a Metro newspaper, which was at all train stations in Manchester. In the back of the Metro, there was an ad saying FHM, fun plus hard work equals money. I looked at it and said, I'd like to stay. My parents definitely aren't going to give me any money to stay. And I needed to get a job because I needed to earn some money pretty quickly and establish myself. I didn't really know what it was. I wasn't looking for sales. I was just looking for a job. So I thought I'd be like in a warehouse packing, boxes or cleaning cars, whatever. I just needed to make £1 or £2. Anyway, answered the advert, and I eventually got through the interview process and found myself doing sales, door-to-door, commission only. And I know, who would have thought? And I absolutely fell in love with it. I loved the people, I loved the challenge, I loved the thrill. I didn't make any sales in my first 3 days, but I kept coming back every day. I'm like, I'm going to get this, I'm going to get this. I soonly figured out that sales was, you had to have a good work ethic. And from being a professional cyclist, I knew how to put in a shift. And I knew if I kept persisting and I kept learning and I kept trying every single day, I'd make a sale. And on my 4th day, Christian, I made a sale, and it still makes me so happy and brings a smile to my face every day. I was in a suburb or a little town called Sale, which is just outside of Manchester.
So wait, your first sale
was in Sale? Yeah, I never thought of that. How great! Yeah, my first sale was in Sale, and the buzz I got from that sale, took me through till the next day. And I just thought it was incredible. And from then on, I was addicted, to that sales buzz. And that's, how I found it. I wasn't looking for sales. I was just looking for a job, and I stumbled upon it. And I'm so thankful that I did. Yeah.
Fantastic.
There you go.
Your first sales and sale. I love that. You can't make that up, can you?
No.
Amazing. Okay, so you're 21. You're in Manchester.
Yeah.
You decided, right? Okay, I'm gonna do sales.
Yeah.
Right. But what was it that made you decide that was then what you were going to do? Obviously you need to make some money, but what made you decide, yep, this is going to be my thing?
I think, I was never looking for anything long-term. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, I wanted to travel. I wanted to start a new life after cycling. I needed money to go out, to meet people, to live, and to travel. And with door-to-door and it being commission only, it's a real sort of sense of freedom out there. And I think unless you've done it, you don't really know what it's like. And to me, I wasn't looking anything long-term, but short-term, I knew I could make 100, 200 pounds even back 20 years ago in a day. And for me, that was phenomenal money, especially back then. I got to turn up to the office at 11, 12 in the afternoon, in midday. So I got a big sleep in. You get to hang out with some great people, like-minded people. I learned sales every single day. And I had the ability to go out there and make, 100, 200 pounds every single day. And I remember the first week, I made over £1,000 in a week. And I thought, blimey, this is unbelievable. The amount of money that I'm allowed to make or I can create, and the fun I was having, I just couldn't believe it. So I really just dedicated myself to getting great at sales and learning sales. I got to hang out with some people that were, much, much better at sales than me. And I'd listen to their sales pitches, and I'd see how they'd work on the field and how they'd communicate with customers. And it just opened my eyes up to, to what sales could actually be. But I guess for the first sort of 3 to 6 months for me was just having fun, meeting people, enjoying Manchester and the fruits that Manchester could give me, and making £500 to £1,000 a week, and just having a great time as a 21-year-old.
Great. I mean, definitely, it's good money now. I guess £200 a day.
I think that's still great money, and back then it was fantastic money. Yeah,
fantastic.
Yeah.
So that's obviously a great start. You're 21. You're making some good money. You're in Manchester. Help me kind of connect the dots, because you and I have known each other for a couple of years.
Yeah.
But obviously, 2001 was a long time ago.
2001 was. Yeah.
So help me get from Gilles at 21 in Manchester to here. What's the kind of journey been like for you?
It's been the best journey. I think life is a journey. I wasn't really looking for anything long term. But in direct sales, it's like a hidden gem, direct sales, and there's a huge opportunity within it to not only do door-to-door and commission-only sales and make yourself some great money, but to then go and build teams and reap big rewards from that. And then there's new levels of going and building businesses and then expanding businesses. So once I'd been in the industry for, say, 3 to 6 months, I'd been going to some meetings, I'd been networking, meeting some super successful people. And I guess the phrase is I got turned on to the direct sales opportunity. And ever since I saw that, I thought, well, I'm really enjoying, doing direct sales. I didn't really want to do door-to-door commission only for the rest of my life. I thought maybe another year or two I could do it. But when I got turned on and my eyes were open to the opportunity of building sales teams across the country, running your own business, and having an entrepreneurial lifestyle, I thought, wow, I'm going to give this a go. And I guess I met a lot of people, also not only within the UK, but I was taken to conferences all over the world, which is so super exciting, and itched my travel bug. And I met people with 20 offices, 50 offices, hundreds of offices, and I saw their lifestyles, their happiness, their fulfillment. I saw the money. I just saw what, I guess for me, I saw them and I thought, okay, cool. That career that they've got now, so where they are in their career now, might take me 10, 20 years, but that's what I want. They didn't look stressed. They were able to travel around. And in direct sales, it's like you work really hard at the start, and as your business grows, it becomes less. In direct sales, we'll start that again, Cam. In direct sales, at the start, you got to work really, really hard. But I'm going to start that again, Cam. Indirect sales, as your business grows, because you've got so many like-minded people that you've trained up that do what you do, it becomes a lot easier for you. And these guys and girls that I met had, incredibly inspirational lives. And I just thought, that's what I want to go and do. And even if it takes me 40 years to get there or 50 years, I'm going to give it a go. So I really thought to myself, okay, cool, I'm enjoying Manchester. I'm enjoying what I do. Look, I didn't have great days every day. I had some pretty bad days. I had some bad weeks. I had some good days and bad days, just like everybody. But I really decided I'm going to give this a shot. What's the worst that can happen? If it works out, great. And if it doesn't work out, I can go somewhere else, and I've got a bunch of skills.
Great. And it's obviously worked out pretty well.
Yeah, it's definitely worked out really well. Yeah,
amazing. And we'll kind of come back to that as far as like I think it's probably a different podcast looking at the full journey and what the business looks like. But I think where I would like to go now is everything starts with sales. Obviously, if you're going to build a sales team, the first thing you got to do is be able to sell a thing.
You got to be good. Yeah.
So how do you get good at sales? You obviously did. What did you do? How do you get good at sales?
So sales is. I heard a great quote. And the quote was, sales is the worst paid, easiest job in the world.
Right, okay.
Or the best paid, hardest job in the world.
Okay.
I love to put in a shift. I love to work hard. I love to get home and feel satisfied that I've done something and achieved something. Sitting about's definitely not me. So there's three areas for me to get good at sales. So the first most important thing, apart from those three, is surround yourself by great salespeople. Surround yourself by people that you want to be like. I think they call it like the power of seven. So the people that you hang around most, the 7 people that you hang around the most, you'll then become to be like. So I surrounded myself with, really high performing salespeople. And I learned 3 things: skill set, work ethic, and positive mental attitude. Okay. So sales is a skill. So you need to learn the skill. You need to learn how to communicate properly with people. If you're knocking on somebody's door, they're not going to open up with, wide arms, ready to hug you.
Hello, sell me something.
Embrace you, into their home. It starts off quite negative. So you've got to learn how to get people's attention in 3 to 5 seconds. You've got to learn how to win them over within the first 30 seconds. You've got to learn, most importantly, how to, not convince somebody, but add value to their household and to their family. And once you understand that concept, you've got to learn what to say when somebody says something to you. You've got to learn to explain things. You've got to learn to overcome objections. You've got to learn how to close somebody. You've got to learn the skill set. So for me, to get great at sales is never stop learning the skill set and never stop getting fresh skill set and sales techniques to bring on the field. I think you need a great work ethic. People have this preconceived idea that salespeople could just sell sand to the Arabs and ice to the Eskimos. I definitely cannot do that. I definitely can't do that. Sales to me is a mathematical equation. Not everybody's going to buy clothes from Zara. Not everybody's going to buy clothes from Hugo Boss. Do you know what I mean? Not everybody's going to buy a certain car like a Volkswagen or a Porsche. Sales is a mathematical equation. The more people that see your product and the more people that you speak to, the more chances that you've got of making a sale. And I thankfully learned that quite early on in my career. I realized that all I had to do was have a good skill set, a good pitch, but instead of speaking to 10 people, speak to 100 people. I realized that 1 out of 10 people, near enough on average, are positive. And I realized that you can't sell to a nasty person. You can't sell to somebody in a bad mood. You can't sell to somebody that's not really interested. You can't sell to an unsellable. But what you can do is you can work hard enough and you can find sellables. And then when you got some sellables in front of you, you can give it a good go. But unless you've got the work ethic to find the sellables, then, you're not going to sell very well. So instead of putting pressure on myself, thinking that I had to sell to every single door, it was more like find a positive person, find a sellable person to go and sell to. And that's just about seeing as many people as you can on the field, as possible. That for me was pretty big. And then it's all about having a positive mental attitude. Your mindset needs to be really positive instead of like, I hope I do well. I hope today does well. You really want to be, I know I'm going to go and do well today. I know I'm going to give it 100% today. Instead of thinking, oh, I hope I don't get sent to a certain area I don't like. It's like, you can put me anywhere. I'm going to go and sell today. It's just having that positive attitude. There was a great YouTube video when YouTube came out that I used to watch, and it was this American guy, and he would say, your attitude is your window to the world. Some people have the curtains closed because the window's grubby and they've not got a very good view of the world. Some people have the curtains open and all of the windows are nice and clean and they have a bright view. And I think attitude is all about perspective, and it's about your perspective on the world. So when you had a positive perspective and you reacted really positively, good things happen to you, positive things happen to you. And I think for anyone starting out in sales, you've got to learn the skill set, you've got to put in a shift, and you've got to learn to be positive. And if you can do that, you're going to do all right. You're going to do great.
I really like that phrase or quote of attitude is your window to the world. I think it's a great way to explain it because obviously, as you know, I worked in direct sales for about 3 years, and we talk so much about attitude. And I think it's such a fascinating subject because in direct sales, it's talked about differently than any other context that I've seen it. I think for most of us growing up, attitude was usually a negative thing. It's usually your parents being like, Gilles, why are you giving me attitude? You've got such a bad attitude.
Yeah.
But in sales, it's the complete opposite.
Yeah.
And we obviously all know, in direct sales, we all know the power of having a good attitude. But I think if it was that easy, everybody would do it. Right. And it's all well and good for us to say, okay, just go get a skill set and work really hard and be positive and you'll succeed. But if it was that easy, we'd have more entrepreneurs and less people that work in normal jobs.
Yeah.
So there's obviously this kind of fourth or a hidden thing that ties it all together. And I think that probably easy way to sum it up would be mindset, right? Is that you need to not only have these things, but also you got to be able to approach it in the right way. So talk me through the kind of mindset that you have and the mindset you need to succeed in sales and entrepreneurship?
So for me, mindset is your mental state towards hitting a goal. So for me, having the right mindset in entrepreneurship is your ability to fixate on a goal that means something to you and your team and gives you and your team purpose. And then your ability to move towards that goal with your team. So you've got to have, not only do you have to have, you've got to learn how to hit that goal. You've got to plan how to hit that goal. You've got to have tenacity. You can't give up because the people that succeed are the ones that get up one more time. And most importantly, you've got to have a solution-focused, positive, go-getter attitude. So for me, Christian, attitude is the way in which you react to situations. So it's your perspective on things. So I believe to go and hit big goals, you've got to have a really big positive attitude. And it all comes down to, instead of seeing something as a negative or a block or a closed door, I always think to myself is like, where's the opening? Where's the open door? How can I get through this challenge? How can I get over this obstacle? And once you start to, like when I started in sales, I found a positive mental attitude really difficult because you're not taught it.
No, of course.
I was never taught at home, have a positive attitude, what's your perspective? Be positive. So what I started to do, this is no joke, right? I bought 2 white shirts from Primark, 2 pink shirts, and 2 yellow shirts. And I thought to myself, I'm going to wear bright colors, right, in amongst my suit. I didn't have I didn't have pink and yellow suits, although that would have been pretty cool. But I to remind myself to brighten up people's day and look at the positive thing. And I did that for about 6 months. And I had to train myself to learn to think positively. And whenever I thought negatively, my goal was to catch myself and go, oh, that's a negative thought. That's a negative attitude. Where's the positive? Where's the win? Where's the solution? How do I jump over the obstacle? So I used to wear these brightly colored shirts to remind myself to not only brighten up other people's days, but brighten up my day. So the attitude you need, or the mentality you need, is I need to focus on a meaningful goal. I need to learn how to get there, plan how to get there, and then I need the attitude, the work ethic, and the tenacity to bring myself and my team up to my goal.
So it's just about, I can't say it's just about the goal, but that needs to be the thing that continues to drive you forward then. Is that, have I got
goal?
That right? Yeah, the goal.
Yeah, you've got to have a goal. Goals are fascinating things to me. I love goals. And I'm a very goal-orientated human being. And goals need to bring you, so once you set a goal, it should bring you a lot of motivation. Okay, now motivation comes up and motivation comes down, and that's where discipline comes in, which we can talk about. But having a goal that's meaningful is incredibly powerful. Whatever that is up to you is up to you. Your goal is your goal. Like no one can tell you what goals you should have, because you are your own individual human being, and what makes you tick doesn't make me tick, but what makes me tick won't make the person to my left tick. Everybody's individual. So you've got to find a goal that's really meaningful to you, and once you find it and you can feel that buzz, then you let that universe get out of your way, and your positive attitude head down that path.
Great. What are your goals? I know you've got a lot, but
yeah.
What are your goals?
So my goals are more about creating massive opportunity. I love direct sales. I absolutely adore it, because I came here into this country with literally 20 pounds in my pocket when I arrived in the country in Manchester, which didn't really last me that long. Luckily, I had James's family that would take me in. And it completely changed my life for the better. It's an incredible career I've got. It's an incredible life that I lead. To me, it's the ultimate freedom. So I want to share these experiences and share the opportunity with other people. So for me, my goal is to be the most professional, proactive, and powerful UK sales team. I think we're 3 years off that. We do have offices all over the country in every major city. And then this year we're heading into London as well, and we're going to give that a good bash, and I can't wait for that. And then we're looking at New York in the next 2 to 3 years. I've already been over there, as you said at the start, to start building the foundations to moving over. I want to build, as I said before, the most professional, proactive, and powerful UK sales force. And then I want to do that in different countries. I want to build a legacy for myself. I want to change people's lives. And most importantly, look, I believe people don't know what's out there. Mm-hmm. You go to school, and school is one niche market. And I think it's very, very important, school, because it gives everybody a strong foundation. And there are people out there, which we've spoken about before, that say, school is, not necessary, and don't go to uni, you can get it all online, et cetera, et cetera. And I understand where they're coming from, and I understand their perspective, but I also think, from my perspective, I think school and university is incredibly important. Because you wouldn't go to a doctor that didn't go and do a medical degree, right?
Absolutely not.
Could you imagine that? Going to a lawyer, have you done a law degree? No, but I think I figured it out on the internet.
I've got the book.
Let's give it a go. That'd be ridiculous. But it's not for me. I'm dyslexic. I can't read or write very well. Heavily ADHD, right? And a bunch of other issues going on in my head, right? So I'm incredibly energetic, incredibly hyper. And so if you're going to put a young boy that I was in the 80s in Australia in a piping hot classroom, because Australia was so hot, it used to get to 35, 40 degrees, doing English, which I couldn't do, right? Full of ADHD, so I was bouncing on the walls. And you put me and try and, complete a 40-minute English class, and you think I'm, going to be okay at that? Like,
good luck.
Good luck, right?
I feel bad for your teachers.
Yeah, school was definitely not for me. I loved my friends and family and everybody there. Like, playtime was the best, but class time was really bad. And it got to a point in secondary third year. So in Australia, we call it grade 10. Mm-hmm. Scotland would be S3, and England would be senior 3.
Great. So you
or year 10.
13 years or something like that?
I was...
Because I'm American.
14, about 14.
14, great.
14, 15. I got asked to leave because I just disrupted so many people. I feel so sorry for my teachers. I probably drove them. I know I drove them up the wall. And, I unfortunately probably stopped a lot of people from learning. But when you get put into that environment and get told that's the only way, and I knew that wasn't my way, I felt really low. And then what happened was people would tell me, you're not going to amount to anything. How are you going to achieve anything, Gilles? You can't even sit in a classroom for 40 minutes. And I was told twice by 2 teachers that I wouldn't amount to anything.
Really?
Yeah. Can you believe that?
Really?
Yeah. And anyone that was dyslexic or had ADHD or anything, you know, I think being dyslexic is a superpower because it gives me an incredible amount of tenacity and an incredible amount of creativity. I think ADHD is a superpower. It gives me so much energy and focus, you know? So, and I really wish I was told that as a young boy, but I just thought I was going to amount to nothing, and I was going to be a loser, and I'm not a loser. And people that don't do well at school are not losers. You know, they're more than enough, but they've got to be told like everything's going to be okay. There's so many different avenues people can go down nowadays, and that's why I love the internet, because now people from all walks of life and all different careers are able to showboat that online. And Gilles Baudet, you know, when he was 12, could have looked online and go, okay, cool, I'm not going to be an English teacher, okay, cool, or a lawyer because I can't read, but maybe I could be an entrepreneur, or maybe I could be a salesperson, or maybe I could do this, or maybe I could go and do that. Would have given me a lot more hope.
That must have been such a difficult time for you, because obviously we both like Stephen Bartlett, this podcast quite a lot, listen to a lot of his content, and his story is very similar in the fact that he didn't really do well in school, didn't really get it, wasn't really for him, and it must have been quite difficult for you, because we're talking really before social media, before kids and young people have access to these types of people to really get out of that. So I can see when I asked earlier, like why sales? Because it would give you the opportunity to be something as opposed to be nothing, like teachers. I can't believe that from your teachers, by the way.
Can you believe that? No, that's the 1980s back in or not Australia. I don't know. That was my teachers.
Yeah, no, of
I'm not
course.
going to say that was Australia or any specific country. I'm sure that, every country is different. Maybe that was just my teachers, but there was a couple, and I think that's just wrong.
But you're not alone though, because
No.
because obviously there's, I think now I know several of the people that work within your organization who run their own companies are also dyslexic. It seems to be a thing there.
Yeah.
And that's what I really fell in love with about the direct sales industry, was the fact that it does give anybody from any background, any walk of life, the opportunity to come in and make something for themselves.
Yeah.
And I think that's fantastic. Some of my closest friends are within your organization, and they run their own companies in Cardiff and Edinburgh and Aberdeen and all over the country. And I think that's absolutely amazing. I think what you're doing is just fantastic.
I think for me, and this is a really great point, school is for some people and isn't for other people. Uni is for some people and isn't for other people. Sales is for some people and isn't for other people. Like, I was talking to my dad this morning. I gave him a call on the way in, and he's French. He was born in the south of France in a place called Saint-Gilles, which is just above the Camargue in central southern France. Beautiful place. And, he's a lovely man. He's 74 years of age. And he always says to me, the reason why the world is so beautiful is because everybody's so different. And he goes, you need to understand that. And that's what I really have grown to understand is like, some people want to be a lawyer and a lot of people don't. Some people want to be a policeman and a lot of people don't. Some people want to be a teacher and a lot of people don't. Some people want sales and a lot of people don't. And that's okay. And we just let people be who they want to be. And I think that's very, very important to understand that.
Because it could be for everybody. There's not enough room for it to be for everybody. I think that it's interesting though, because I still feel like many of our authority figures growing up, your teachers, your principals, sometimes family, still can be sort of stuck in this kind of mindset of you need to fit in the established boxes. Entrepreneurism definitely is becoming more accepted because of things like Instagram, and it's more high profile, but I still know several people who, both with my life and with people that I've worked with, who got some negativity from the friends, from the family, because they weren't going to be the accountant, they weren't going to be the teacher, they weren't going to fit into our preconceived ideas of what a normal job is. Yeah. So number one, I guess, what was your family's reaction to I'm going to do entrepreneurship and sales?
Yeah, wow. It was quite extreme at the start. So I called my mom, told her what I was doing, and she was like, no son of mine's going to be a salesperson. That was her exact words. No son of mine's going to do sales. I was like, okay, this isn't going to be a good phone call.
Good start.
Great start. And I think on that, like, I've got the best mom and the best dad. Like, they're the best. Love them to bits and gave me such a great upbringing. And what I can understand is because they're architects, so they're so far removed from sales. They were probably getting sold to by salespeople. So she didn't understand the sales world. She had no idea about the sales world. And I think all your parents want is what's best for you. So my mum she always said, I just want to wrap you up in cotton wool and hope you're okay. And I know, that wouldn't bode very well for entrepreneurial and mental strength. So when it was outside of her comfort zone, I think she felt very uncomfortable and pushed those feelings on me and said, I'd like you to come home and go back to university. And she said, I've lined up an interview at the university to go and do environmental science. That's what she wanted me to do environmental science, because she knew about that industry. She knew it was probably going to do well. The university was literally the same university that she went to, so she knew everything there. One of my aunties is a lecturer there. It was all very within the comfort zone, and that's what she thought I should go and do. And I was like, Mum, I can't sit in a room still. Like, nothing's changed from when I was, at school. So, trying to make me go to university and read more and write more and do something that I'm not interested in isn't going to...
It's not going to work.
Not going to work for me. And that's going to lead to unhappiness. And none of us want that. So she actually flew over.
From Australia.
I think it was like a 32-hour flight, poor mum, to come and get me to come home. Yeah.
Grab you by the ear. You're coming back.
Well, yeah. But we had a great time. I showed her Manchester. She stayed in my flat. We had a really lovely time together. I didn't really get to see my family much because I was always in France and only really got that sort of Christmas period with my family back in Australia before I'd get shipped back off to Europe. So I hadn't seen her much in the last sort of couple of years. We had such a great time. And I just said, look, I really don't want to go back to Australia. I don't want to go back, and go to university. I don't want to go and do any of that. That's not me. I want to go and live life. Manchester in the UK is just, this wonderful new experience for me. Let me keep walking this wonderful journey. Please, please, please. And she was like, I just don't want you to do sales. And I said, look, I'm making great money, £500 up to £1,000 a week, right? I'm like, that's good money. She's like, yeah, that's really good money. I said, I've got amazing friends, supportive work colleagues. My boss is great. Everybody's great. And I've got this ability to go and run my own business. And she was like, Gilles, you're 21. No one at 21 is going to run a business. I said, Mum, there are people at my age and young, I think it was an 18-year-old at that point, running a business. And she said, Gilles, you can't even tidy your room, let alone...
That's such a mum thing to say.
Let alone run a business. I'm like, they're different things. She's like, no, they're not. So I turned around and I said, look, I'm making great money. I'm having a great time. I've got great support around me. I'm safe. Let me stay. I said... And she was like umming and ahhing. And I said, look, why don't you give me a year? 12 months. If it hasn't worked and I haven't gotten to running my own business and doing well, I'll come home, environmental science, sign me up. But if I do get there, then I want you to support me and let me be. And she said, great, okay, fine. You got a deal. You got 12 months and I'm bringing you home. I said, no problem. I said, all I want for this next 12 months is just be supportive, don't be negative. If I'm going to do this, I just want you in my corner. Just for 12 months, be in my corner. And she was like, okay. And it was great. It was a great time. And then we used to speak every Sunday when she went back to Australia. So every Sunday we'd have a call, and she'd like, are you doing your sales? Are you hitting your targets? Are you building your team? I'm like, yeah. She's like, okay, go for it. And then, I actually got to a director level within 9 months.
Great.
Yeah, I had 28 people on my team. We were doing north of 365 sales every single week. Yeah, we were generating serious money, like way more than 10 grand a week. I had a fabulous team. We were traveling all up and down the United Kingdom. It was such a great buzz. And ever since then, I've never looked back.
Amazing. I think that's a really beautiful reaction from your mom, because you're right. It's all our parents' natural reaction to want to protect us and look after us and make sure that we're safe and that we kind of fit within the confines of what they know to be safe and secure and all that. And I'm pleased and I'm happy to hear that your mom had what I would say is the correct reaction when you've done that, and she's gone and supported you, which is brilliant.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, as we know, not everyone's going to react the same way.
No.
And while I know that there isn't a one size fits all solution, obviously everyone's situation is different. What would you say to somebody who maybe tries to do that but still then receives some pushback, whether that's from family, from friends? What would you say to someone like that?
I think the most important thing for me is don't oversell it. Don't tell them you're going to, the direct sale. You don't tell them that the direct sales, I'm going to get my own company and, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. Because unless you've been in direct sales and similar types of industries, because there's lots of similar types of industries in sales like this. And a lot of people just haven't ever ventured in, so they don't know. There's a great quote, you don't know what you don't know.
Of course.
So I would just say, if you are in some form of a career that your parents aren't into, I would just say to them, look, like I said, I'm making good money. I'm really enjoying it. I've got a great, safe support system. I really want to give this. When else am I going to have a chance in my life to give this a go? Just give me maybe 3 months, or just give me 6 months. If the other tip I've got is don't try and oversell it, because when you try and oversell a career, that's what's going to get people's backs up. So just don't oversell it.
I'm going to take over the world.
Yeah,
Like, nah, back in your box.
Don't say that. It's like my mum, you can't even tidy your room. But at 23, I was running my own company. Still couldn't tidy my room. I can now. But God, I ran a great business. I ran an incredible business at 23. I was so full of, passion and drive and tenacity, and so positive, and just wanted to build salespeople and expand across the UK. It was just my life. It was my everything. Still couldn't, make my bed, but, I did a lot of other things really, really well. So just don't oversell it. Just understand the perspective your parents are coming from, and maybe go in it that way. I think the biggest close for me was when I got there in the end, I saved up quite a lot of money. I was doing very well, and I saved up quite a lot of money in Manchester, and I went home to visit my mum and dad, and I surprised them. And I actually was able to afford to fly business class.
Nice.
And I turned up in a chauffeur-driven car at 6:10 in the morning. My dad's outside in the front garden, and he's like, "What's this car? What's this?" He's French. And for that, he's still got a very deep Southern French accent. He's like, "Who is this? Who is this?" And I'm like, put down the window. I'm like, "Hey, Dad." He's like, "Oh shit, Gilles, what are you doing here?" And then my mum's in a dressing gown, running down, crying, "Oh my God, she's home." I'm like, "Not for long, but yeah, I'm home." And she's like, "What's this car? This is too expensive." I'm like, "It's okay. I got here business class." And she's like, "What?" And she hit the roof, and she said, "It's way too much money, and I should save it all in the bank," and just everything that a wonderful, loving, protective mum should say. But ever since that trip home, I said, I showed them the accounts, and I showed them what I was doing, showed them my bank balance, and my mum was like, "Okay, cool. Well, you've done this so far, so we'll just give you another year, and we'll give it a go." So I got to see all my friends and family, and had a great couple of weeks, and jumped back on the plane to Manchester and did it all again.
I love that. So how do mum and dad feel now? We're 20 years down the line. Is she still like...
No, she's very proud. very proud. She's always like, I can't believe, you've achieved what you've achieved. And I always say, it's because of you, Mum. Yeah, they're very, very proud. My dad, he's excited. He just wants me to be happy. Dad's not one for money. He's just one for me experiencing life and not to miss life. And his perspective on life is very different. And it's really lovely to have that in my life. And my mum's just super happy. My parents just want me to be happy, my wife to be happy, my children to be safe and happy. And, that's their main sort of motive.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's what most parents would want. But
Yeah.
that's good. I'm happy she's kind of given up on the idea of environmental science. Because I can't really see you.
Well, she actually called me 4 or 5 years ago and said I should go to university in America and do an MBA.
All right.
And I'd take 6 months away from my family and my business and do an MBA. And I said, Mum, why would I go do an MBA? She goes, you need something to fall back on. I'm like, Mum, we're turning over, I think it was like north of 15, 16 million back then. I'm like, Mum, we're doing great. And she's like, you need something to fall back on. I'm like, I've got a pretty big cushion to fall back on now. And then she says, I think an MBA would be really important to get your business to another level. I said, Mum, I employ 2 people with MBAs. I don't need to do one myself. Do you know what I mean? But again, she's just loving and she's just caring, and it's nice to have people in my corner.
Great. I love that. I think it's a lovely way to for it to not end, but for us to go kind of full circle from her flying over to try and retrieve you to now her being flow sportive. I think it's beautiful. All right, so we've talked a lot about kind of entrepreneurship and the sort of idea and the realm. What is entrepreneurship to you, Gilles?
Freedom.
Okay.
Freedom.
I'm American, so that means something different.
Yeah. To me, entrepreneurship is the ultimate in freedom. Yesterday I was able to, go home at 2:00. I worked pretty hard from 8 till 2 and then got to go hang out with my wife. We booked all of our summer holidays, which was really cool.
Where are you going?
I'm going to go to the south of France and then Corsica for a couple of weeks. Yeah, Corsica's beautiful. So that's going to be exciting. So, got to do that. And then I was able to go pick up the kids from school and hang out with them, and played hockey with my daughter. I played football with my son, did some homework with them, and just got to hang out. And then I decided about 7:30 to get dressed again into my work costume, and then go back to work, and did a shift from 8 till 11, and got home at about 11ish. And for me, entrepreneurism is really important. And it's, I know this is going to sound a little bit cheesy, but I mean it from the best possible way, is I can really make as much money as I want to make, within reason. Mm-hmm. If I want to go and, make an extra little bit amount of money to pay for a holiday, or, to buy a new car, or to give to charity, or to do something with my family, all I have to do is just drive more sales. It's really that simple. So if you want direct sales and running your own business in direct sales, you can really have the ability to make as much as you want. I can't tomorrow go around and go, right, I'm going to make, 50 million tomorrow. It's within reason. But if I want to go and drive the sales by a couple of £1,000s in a week, I can definitely do that. So it's the freedom in money, which I think as the world carries on, I think is really, really important. The world is changing, and money is economic energy, and you need some of it to experience life. And I think it's important. The other thing is, for me, entrepreneurship is the ability to not only make as much money as you want, but to really scale a business as big as you want to scale it, in the direction that you want to scale it, the way that you want to scale it. Entrepreneurism is a whole world of, building businesses. You can live in different cities, you can sell different products, you can expand your business, you can, like myself, go international. We've opened massive call centers before. There's hundreds of people in the Power 22 call center. It's incredible. It's not the same mundane thing over and over again. You can change the money, you can change, the direction. It's not the same thing every single day. It's constant learning. Like, you're constantly learning. And I think that's really, really important. My job, 10 years ago is not what it is now. a year ago is completely different, and I know in 5-10 years will be different again. It'll still be in my business, in direct sales and entrepreneurship, but my actual day-to-day role and what I'm doing and what I'm learning and focusing on is so different. And I think that's so important to keep the mind young and active, and to keep growing as a human being. So for me, if I want to go home in the afternoon, I can go home. I'm not saying that, to go home every day, but if I want to work really hard, I can work really hard. I don't have to ask anybody. If I, last year I did 13 holidays. The year before, God knows, I probably did 12 to 13. If I want to go on holiday, I can. If I want to work really hard, I can. If I want to focus on this, I can. If I don't want to focus on that, I don't have to. So it's really being in control. Without saying cheesy, it's being in control of your destiny, and take away the cheese. It's the truth. And I think that's very, very important. And I think that really, if you want to be happy in life, you want to have purpose, and you want to have control, and you want to have ability to do that.
I think that leads me into quite an important topic, because so with me having worked in direct sales, I will always remember going in for my first interview.
Yeah.
Because I walked into the office, and as soon as you walk in, there's just this intangible, I don't know what word you want, buzz, vibe, energy. There's something there. And when you're not yet exposed to it, you can't really put your finger on it and identify what it is. But as I then started in the industry and came to learn more about it and meet more people and understand their mentality, understand their attitude, I think you've kind of touched on it there, which is everyone seems to enjoy what they do, right? But that, I imagine, is probably a pretty big part of it, is that they all have that freedom, that flexibility, that kind of control, if you will, that they don't, if they want to go on a nice holiday or buy something nice for their partner, they don't have to try and pinch pennies away and save a bit more. They have the control to go out and then do a couple extra sales or drive that and make that for themselves. Yeah. And I think that's really, really exciting for the people that you work with.
Yeah, huge. It's freedom. I keep coming back to that state. It's just freedom. It's being able to, we have a lot of guys and girls in the office. I have one guy who's a phenomenal salesperson. And in the next 2 weeks, he's destined to make £4,000 just in pure sales alone. In 2 weeks. Oof. So $2,000 a week.
It's not bad.
And the other day he was on holiday with his 3 children and partner, and they had a great time up in northern Scotland. And, just being able to, when you get into sales and you start to, get good at it and you really get in, I'm not talking like a couple of weeks and think you understand, I'm like really going in and really getting good. It opens up a whole new world to you. And to me, I just say it's absolute freedom.
Absolutely love that. So you were obviously talking us through the freedom that you have to go home and spend time with the family, or whatever it is you need to do. Yeah. So take me through a sort of there's no such thing as a normal day for you, but take me through a day in the life of Gilles. What's the morning look like? Talk me through that.
Yeah. So I wake up anywhere from 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock. I don't have an alarm. I just wake up naturally. Then I'll go downstairs. I'll brush my teeth. And then I'll drink some hydrogen water. I try and drink half a litre to a litre of hydrogen water. And then I meditate for 20 to 30 minutes. And it's incredible. I've meditated for over 5 or 6 years now, every single day for 20 minutes to 30 minutes. It's the first thing I do before anybody in my household is up. It's beautiful. It's like going to the gym for your mind. It's incredible. So I do that. That's been the biggest game changer for me. And then I go outside, take my shoes off. I go into the grass in the back garden, and I'll do groundwork. So I'll have bare feet straight on the grass, and I do 3 to 4 rounds of Wim Hof breath work. So I oxygenate my body. Once that's done, I really enjoy that part. If there's some sun, I look at the sun and I sort of do my stretches, and I really embrace the day. If it's snowy, I'm still out there. If it's raining, I'm still out there. And thankfully this morning, it was a really beautiful morning, and it was really sunny and warm, and it was a really lovely experience. Then I have a double espresso. I have a wonderful little coffee machine, and I have a double espresso, and I take that out into the garden. If it's sunny, I'll take that out into the garden and have a wee moment out in the garden, in the orchard with the birds. And then I get ready for work, iron my shirt, get all ready, and then, Christian, believe it or not, I have a 3 to 4 minute ice bath. I've got an ice bath at the bottom of my garden. Ooh. I'm a big ice bath and sauna enthusiast. So I've got an ice bath, and I have 3 to 4 minutes in that. It's 2 degrees. It was this morning anyway.
That's a long time.
It's not too bad. It's the first 30 seconds that are tough.
Okay.
And then everything starts to ease out. I have that. And then go in, have a cold shower, and then I get ready, go into work. I'm usually in the car for anywhere from 8:15 to 9 o'clock. And then I am in work for 8:30 at the absolute latest, and I start work. Then I start work, and I go pretty hard until 2, 3 o'clock. Sometimes about 4, sometimes it can last till 4 o'clock. And then once I've done that, I get to go and have my time. So whether that is usually going and seeing my children, seeing my wife, having dinner with them, I always do some form of exercise for an hour to an hour and a half. And then I have a shower, or sometimes I have a sauna, then I have a shower, and then I'm usually back into work for 7:30, 8 o'clock, and I'll do 7:30 till 8 o'clock, all the way up until anywhere from 11 o'clock back at the office. So when the kids are asleep, then, you know, I can go back and keep working.
Great. It's a big day.
It is, but it's broken up for a couple of hours in between for my time. So it actually doesn't seem like a big day to me. You know, my morning routine to me is peaceful. Get to hang out with the kids as well, and the dog, little Milo. I've got a little tiny white fluff ball called Milo. He's a Bichon Frise. So yeah, and then but I enjoy what I do. You know, and I work with lots of great people, and like you said, it's that vibe. So it's not like, you know, I'm pulling teeth. I'm not trying to you know, I'm not, you know, doing surgery on, you know, brain surgery. I'm not, you know, doing anything that difficult. It's just running sales teams, and I find it so fun, and the environment and the culture is so positive and so go-getter and so energetic that I believe it just keeps me young. I absolutely love it.
And do you think? So you said you're 43?
3, yeah.
Right? How long do you see yourself doing that, running the sales teams? And how, do you ever see a point where you're like, right, that's me, and you're retire and let the businesses do their thing? What do you think?
I used to have a dream in my 20s. I'm going to retire in my 40s on a beach and drink cocktails. Now you know, and I get that. That was exciting for me back then. Now, you know, I can't sit on a beach for longer than 2 minutes. I've got to get going. I've got to do something. No, I love it. You know, I've gotten into my 40s, and I'm like born again. You know, I'm like, you know, I'm starting to get pretty good at this. I made so many mistakes, you know, in my 20s and 30s. And I'm only just starting to get good with my people management, my leadership, especially my performance management and the way I'm managing, especially these Generation Zs at the moment. You know, the success we've got at the moment is incredible. One of my offices that I run myself, within 9 months, we've already reached £1 million turnover, which is just fantastic. And I think to myself, if I'm achieving what I'm achieving now, you know, in 10 years, imagine where I could be. It gives me so much purpose. I'm in such a good mood every single day. And I'm just going to keep doing it for as long as my body, mind, and soul can keep going. And I don't know how long that's going to be. But at the moment, I'm thoroughly enjoying it. We have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people across the UK. It's nothing but positivity. And I just want to keep spreading that love and spreading that opportunity. And, you know, the next thing is, let's go to the States.
That I'm happy you brought that up because that was going to be actually what I wanted to ask about, is take us back to goals. You were talking about being really goal oriented, and obviously you've told us short term you're wanting to be the most professional, proactive, powerful sales force.
Yeah.
So that's, I would say, probably shortish term. You've mentioned the States a couple of times. Talk to me about that. I know that's kind of a longer term, that's sort of medium long term goal. What is it about the States?
I think it's just a challenge. I think the States really embraces entrepreneurship to a new level, a higher level. I think people in the States embrace sales a lot more as well. Mm-hmm. Like I was in the New York only 6 weeks ago, and we had a big dinner in the Centurion Club in the center of New York, and I was next to this young salesman. Because we brought some older salespeople and successful people, and we brought some new people as well to hang out with them. And he was like, my dad was a salesman, my uncle's a salesman, my grandpa was a salesman, and now I'm embarking on my sales career, and my family are so proud. And I'm like, wow, there's a whole new level of appreciation and dedication to the sales industry. It's bigger. Like there's 360 million people in the United Kingdom, 50 states. To what are we, 65 million?
Like that, 60, 65 over here. So.
It's just bigger. It's just better for our industry. Not for everything, but definitely for our industry. So for me, it's another challenge. I'm like, we've done the UK, we're very successful, but how far can we push it? A lot of my team members want to go to the States as well. So I'm like, well, if you want to do that, then let me serve and let's go.
Great.
Let's see how far we can push this.
Where's the targets? Where's the top places that if you can just pick out, want to go here, here, and here?
Well, we're going to go definitely to New York, Boston, Chicago are the first 3 areas that we're really going to hit for. But New York first, and then once we've established ourselves in New York, it's only a 6 or 7 hour flight, depending the wind. Then we can move there. But Boston's not that far. Chicago, we know a lot of people in Chicago, and then a lot of the team obviously want to go to Miami.
Of course.
So
all these Scottish people want to go to the sunshine.
Yeah, they want to go to the sunshine. So I guess we're going to have to go there as well. So yeah. But I just can't wait. That adventure really excites me. Never done it before. I'm going to have loads of challenges, but let's bring it on.
I love that. I think that's fantastic. And as an American, I can definitely vouch for the fact that the mindset and I guess view towards sales is definitely different. It's something that I think I probably took for granted growing up there, is the general sort of kind of go-getter attitude that seems sort of a default culture in America. I mean, it's the American dream and all that, and I've got my qualms with that concept. It is sort of part of our culture mentality to go out and get it. Yeah. And it's not necessarily the same over here. So I think that probably is more support. I mean, my parents, when I told them I was going to work in direct sales, commission only, they're like, that sounds great. What's the opportunity like? and I was just like, oh, no, that was easy, which was quite nice. I know, can't really complain about that. So you've obviously spoken about your day, your routine, and how your routine really kind of sort of sets you up.
Yep.
As you know, we don't always wake up feeling the same way, and it's easier when you enjoy what you do, but surely there's still days where you wake up and you're feeling groggy, you're tired, you've had a bad night's sleep, the dog's woken you up. We don't always wake up feeling the same way. So how do you keep to it? How do you stay disciplined within that?
Discipline. You said it. Discipline is the key. To me, discipline is everything. I think some days I have large business. I have 2 kids, wife, dog, friends, family. Like there's a lot that goes on, So every day do I wake up ready to go? Of course not. Every day do I wake up in a great mood? Of course not. No way. We're all human beings, full of emotions and different types of energy and moods and, loads of stuff goes on. But I know I need to be feeling my best. I call it out of 10. So trying to feel at a 10 by the time I reach the office so I can give my business and my people everything I've got. And just because I'm in a bad mood doesn't mean that needs to reflect on anybody else. I think that's quite selfish. I think I need to be at work and lead my people and be at a 10. So it's discipline. Do I want to get in an ice bath every single day? Absolutely not. But do I know that it's going to make me feel better? Yes. So I've got a few rules. So number one is discipline trumps motivation 24/7. You have to do what you know you need to do, although you have to do what you not necessarily want to do, but know you should do. So I might do that again, right? So discipline trumps motivation every single time. Discipline is doing things that you don't necessarily want to do, but you know you need to do. And what happens is, I was listening to David Goggins talk, and he says that it's like every time you do something, and Andrew Huberman was talking about this as well. Every time you do something that you don't necessarily want to do, but you know you should do it, your brain grows stronger in some place within there. I don't know the technical terms. You can listen to Andrew for that, but you grow stronger, and your ability to then do the next thing that you don't necessarily want to do, but you know you need to do, is slightly easier. And then the next time is easier. So the first time you get into an ice bath is the worst experience in the world, bar none, right? But now, after doing it for 4 or 5 years, every single day of my life, it's not that difficult. It's actually quite a lovely thing to do. So I really, really enjoy it now. Discipline is something that you need to get really good at, because I believe wholeheartedly that discipline equals happiness. So it's like if you watch Netflix and, eat lots of junk food, instantly, you're going to think, oh, this is really great. But after it, how are you going to feel? Probably not that great. But if you go, but to go and sit and watch Netflix and to eat lots of, great tasting food, is really, really appealing. So I call that like a short-term gain, but long-term, you're not going to feel very good. If you do that all day, every day, you're not going to feel good at all, right? So I look for the short-term pain, because short-term pain usually gives you long-term gain. So I'll go for a run. And, do I want to go for a run all the time? Absolutely not. Like yesterday was deadlifts. Like, do I really want to go into my gym and lift these huge weights? Not all the time. But after it, how did I feel? Fantastic. And I've always got a rule. Once you do something, so after you do something, did you think that was the right thing to do? Should you do that again? So when I come out of the gym, I've never gone, oh, I shouldn't have done that. When I've come back from a run, I've never gone, oh, I shouldn't have done that. If I've ever listened to a podcast to educate myself or gone to a seminar, I've never gone, really shouldn't have listened to that podcast and educated myself, So I think to myself, discipline will trump motivation, because you're a human being. You're never going to be motivated every day. So if you're looking for a career where you're going to be happy every single day and bounce out of bed, it's humanly impossible. Well, in my understanding anyway. I have a rule, and it's the 5-year rule. So in the Gilles in 5 years, what would he want you to do right now? I think Jeff Bezos said that. And that's where I learned it from. So he's like, in 5 years, will that be important? Yes or no? And it really steers you to make the right decision.
So help me unpack that, because I'm trying to play devil's advocate a little bit here. How does you not going for an ice bath this morning, instead choosing to go for a nice hot shower, how does that affect Gilles in 5 years? Talk me through that.
Sure. No, this is a great question. So when I have an ice bath, I feel utterly amazing, because it releases so many endorphins. And for me, it also takes away all of my aches and pains. It's anti-inflammatory. So when I don't have an ice bath, like, has there's been days it's been impossible traveling? Yes, it has been. So, and I've really felt different. I've not felt as good. So I know if I have an ice bath every day, I feel better, and it compounds, and I feel better and better and better every single day. So I know that the Gilles in 5 years is going to be a lot more higher performing mentally and physically by having an ice bath every single day. I'm going to feel better. My aches and pains aren't going to be there. Am I going to be higher performing? Absolutely. So do I need to do it? Absolutely.
Okay, great. That solidifies I'm definitely buying one for my wife for her birthday.
You have to do it. And I'll give you another example. If you go to the gym, you work really hard, you'll build lots of muscle. You don't go to the gym, you're not going to build much muscle. Or if you go do some cardio, you're going to get really, really fit. You're going to feel great. Okay, cool. And then if you compound that over the 5 years, what are you going to be like in 5 years? You're going to be physically and mentally so much fitter and stronger, and you're going to feel better about yourself. When I exercise, I just feel better about myself. So when I'm in front of my team, I feel better about myself. So I radiate better energy. Whereas if I did nothing and just ate junk food, or just watched Netflix all day, or didn't do anything, or just flicked on TikTok and all day and didn't really do anything, then I won't feel good, and I won't radiate well, and I won't lead my people properly, and my business won't grow.
I think that's so important now because of how much screens are dominating everyone's lives. Not even just the young generation.
Yeah.
It's particularly rife with younger generations, but everybody now, it's just so easy to get sucked in. And when especially with some of the new people we have coming in, looking at the screen time thing on their iPhone is scary. Right? Fun fact, not so fun, but fact, the average daily screen time for a teenager in the US is 9 hours right now.
Wow.
More than a third of a day, and they're just looking at screens.
Really?
Yeah.
9 hours?
9 hours. Right? I know. Mental, right? And
that's a lot. When I was growing up, I'm not saying it back in my day, there were no mobile phones. Yeah. I think my mum got a mobile phone in her car, and it was like, had to be fixed into the car.
It's one of the ones with the big long cord, right?
It had a long cord. And I remember like my grandpa had like a briefcase mobile phone, and it was a phone in the briefcase. Like crazy.
And so we're obviously here now. Everyone's got this in their pocket now. They're on it all day long. And I've listened to podcasts where they talk a lot about the impact on mental health. It's a really fascinating one that Chris Williamson did recently about it. I'll show it to you afterwards. But I think you're obviously talking about your discipline, staying to your morning routine, how that then sets you up for the day and helps you be at a 10, as you say. So for the sounds of it, I've got it down to a pretty fine science. You've got the ice bath, you've got the meditation, you've got your groundwork, you got your breath work. So there's a lot of things that you do. What would your advice be to somebody who maybe is feeling a bit stuck? They're in a bit of a rut, and maybe it's because they spend too much time on social media, whatever it is. How do you start to figure out what gets you at a 10?
What really helped me was I just started to listen to various podcasts. And I started with Tim Ferriss and Joe Rogan. And I found it not only educational, but really interesting.
Yep.
And Joe Rogan is on this same sort of spiritual journey, and he does ice baths, he does exercises every single day, he does his groundwork, breath work, and and they interview some fascinating people on this. So I just started to educate myself on it and started to try things. The way I started though was I pick one thing in my life I'm not happy with, and I seek to change.
Okay.
So I'll give you an example. So many, many years ago, I used to get a headache not every day, but I used to get probably 3 to 4 bad headaches every day. So I'm like, I've had enough. I'm not going to have any more headaches ever again. So I started researching headaches and why they got them, and started to do lots of different stuff. And then one day I went for a really long run and came back and did some stretches. And the next 3 days I had no headache. I was like, oh, okay. So I went for another run, did loads of stretching, and then no headache. And then from that day on, I'd never had a headache ever again. Another bit was I was always quite tired. And I thought that's because I worked long hours.
Right.
And one day I was on a Sunday and I had 2 naps, not one, I had 2 naps. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like, what is this? Right? I was in my 30s. I'm like, why am I sleeping all the time? I was one of those guys that would take off on a plane and before takeoff was asleep, would get on a train, fall asleep. Like I was just falling asleep everywhere. I was like, what is wrong with me? I thought it was because of the hours I worked. And my wife was like, you don't really work big hours in the scheme of things. Like, you know, there are people all over the world that do way bigger hours and way more intense jobs than you. I was like, okay, thanks for the confidence.
Put you back in your place.
Yeah. She said, I think you're gluten intolerant. I was like, what's gluten? She's like, it's a wheat it's a protein in wheat. So I was like, so I can't eat any wheat? And she's like, well, why don't for like 1 week, maybe 2, try to go gluten-free. So no breads, no pastas, no pizzas. I was like, really? I'm like, I love pizza. I love pasta. And she said, just try it. Honestly, within 1 week, wasn't tired ever again during the day. Changed my life.
Those are like my 3 main food
I
groups.
I know. It's gutting. You do get used to it. So that's another thing.
Okay.
So, you know, for me, also I had a lot of, you know, brain fog, and I learned how to cure brain fog and cut down my caffeine, and I wanted to get better sleep. And then I studied Matthew Walker and got better sleep. So everything I always pick one thing in my business and I'll focus on that, and one thing in my personal life and I'll focus on that to overcome. And hopefully I'm just becoming a better human being as I move forward.
That I think is a very clear and easy way to, not necessarily easy way to follow, not necessarily easy to follow up on. That's when then obviously the discipline comes into it. I've got a kind of a random side question, but you obviously spoke about how you've got ADHD.
Yeah.
How do you stay focused during podcasts? Because that's something that I've personally struggled with, is maybe kind of finding myself switching off and not really taking in the content. How do you stay focused during if you couldn't sit in a class, what is it about a podcast? Like, what changes?
I think I'm interested in it. I think that's it. Like ADHD is attention deficit hyper disorder, but it also gives you an extreme focus on something that you're really good at.
Okay.
So if you're interested or you're in amongst something that you really enjoy, you'll be focused. I think the other thing to do is, apart from that, I have no idea. You know, and I've also trained myself to concentrate for a short period of time. I think the one thing I can attribute to helping my concentration is, and I can keep my concentration for a long period of time, is meditation. Meditation helps you focus. Meditation is, you know, the meditation I'm practicing at the moment is the art of focusing on nothingness. I think that's the way it is. So I think doing things that you're interested in and practicing meditation every single day. Sometimes I'll meditate for up to 45 minutes. That has definitely helped me with my concentration levels.
Fantastic. That's something that I really want to get into, is meditation, because every podcast that I listen to that mentions it always says it's great if you feel like you can't focus on things. I'm like, that's why I can't meditate. And it's like, well, no, you need to do that because you can't.
Well, meditation is not about being clear. Like if I meditate for 20 minutes, I'm probably clear for just a couple at the end. Like I'm constantly drifting. But the bicep curl for meditation is when you realize you've drifted and you go, oh, I've drifted. Come back to your breath. That's the bicep curl, not the being silent. You know, someone like me can't be silent in their head for very long. But everyone's like, that's what everybody does say. I can't be silent. So I tried it once. I couldn't be silent. I'm like,
that wasn't the point.
Man, I've been doing it for what, 5, 6 years, maybe 10 years. I'm not silent.
That's really good to know, because that's kind of what I thought. And I'm like, how do you turn that voice off? Okay, right. So it's not actually about turning the voice off then.
No. It's about going, oh, okay, I'm thinking, back to the breath.
Right.
But you should download, I learned off Headspace. And I did basics course 1, 2, 3, professional course 1, 2, 3, 4. And then my wonderful wife bought me various meditation retreats to learn various types of meditation. And Vedic is the one that I'm doing at the moment, which I'm thoroughly enjoying. It's where you say a mantra to yourself. Yeah, and you drift off.
Great. Okay, cool. I'm going to have to look into that.
It's quite cool. Vedic meditation is quite cool. I learned from an Australian guy called Cam Cooney. Yeah, you should look him up. He's in Glasgow, and I met him. You should get him on this podcast. He's a really epic human being, full of energy. And he taught me Vedic meditation, and it's a pretty deep meditation, and it's really changed my life.
Great. Okay, cool. I love the random Australian people we get in Glasgow here. Yeah. It's fantastic. Yeah. Okay, so I think that's a nice kind of segue into what I wanted to talk about next, which is one of my favorite topics, and because it is, I think, probably fairly controversial with the general public, not necessarily within our industry, but it's that quote that I've heard from you and I've heard from other people, which is happiness takes effort. Right? You spoke about that in loads of meetings that I've seen you run and topics I've seen you run at different events. So talk me through that kind of concept. Happiness takes effort.
It does. I was listening to Stephen Bartlett, Diary of a CEO, and he was interviewing Mo Gaudet.
Yep.
Did I pronounce that correctly?
You did. Smashed it.
Gawdat.
Perfect.
Okay. And he was a happiness expert. And he said that happiness takes effort. And I'm like, boom. I get it. It like anything, a big bicep takes effort in bicep curls. If you want to deadlift, X amount of weights, you've got to put in the deadlifts. You've got to put in the graft. You got to, as they say, earn the rent. Same in happiness, So I learned how to be happy. And Mo said something which was great. He said, happiness is a mathematical equation. If your life is turns out to be better than you previously expected, you will be happy.
Okay.
If your life turns out worse than you previously expected, you will be unhappy. So you need to build a life in any which way and direction that is better than the one you expect, and you will be happy. In order to do that, it takes effort. Also, meditation takes effort. Do I want to meditate every single day? No. Absolutely not. Do I want to jump in an ice bath every single day? If you jump in an ice bath and you can last 3-4 minutes, your head is clear by the end of it. It's fascinating. Like, it's beautiful. You're clear. When you do breath work, by the end of it, you are just clear. All of these practices train your brain in different ways, shapes, or forms to be happy, to be clear, to be content, to be focused, not to be distracted. It releases endorphins. You feel good naturally all the time. It's constantly going around your body. And I think people need to realize that if you want to be happy, you're going to need to figure out how to do it, and you're going to need to put in some effort. And when you start to do it and you have the discipline to do it every single day, it'll change your life for the better. I do it with my kids, my wife. I absolutely adore it. I do it with people at work. Sometimes we have mindfulness Fridays and we do Wim Hof breathing or meditation, and it's great. Once you open people's, look, I heard another great quote, which I say to myself every day. You were born, right, with this incredible brain that we can't still figure out, these incredible bodies and this amazing spirit. No instruction manual.
It's so true.
It's so true, right? And we learn it from mum and dad, grandma, grandpa, and ancestors that had less information than we do now about it. So our habits aren't all the best to get the best out of our body, mind, and soul. So we need to be able to learn how to get the best out of us. And it takes discipline and it takes effort, but you feel so much better. I now feel I am way happier and feel way better physically, mentally, and definitely spiritually than I did at 21. And I wish I found all this at 21. Maybe I wouldn't have listened, who knows, but at least I found it now.
I think that's beautiful. And I actually had quite a deep realization as you were in the middle of talking there that have not been putting as much effort in towards my own happiness. It's been a while since I've listened to a podcast, so some work for me to do there. So thank you for that realization. And something that you touched on there that I wanna go back to is that there's no instruction manual, right?
Yeah.
We know that, and we all have that little voice in our head, and sometimes that voice isn't very nice.
Yeah.
And particularly when you're on a journey of, sales and entrepreneurship, of anything where you're trying to push yourself to become better and get stronger, whether that's you're trying to do your meditation, you're trying to do more sales, whatever it is, right? That voice in your head sometimes is a bit of a dick. Right? it is,
yeah.
right? And so how do you? I know you have it.
Yeah.
Right? So how do you?
We all have it.
Yeah, we all have it, right? So how do you deal with that when?
Yeah, that's just such a great question, because I've finally realized that you are not your thoughts. Because if you were, you wouldn't need them. Thoughts are like clouds that just come and go, and they don't really mean that much. I was at a seminar many years ago with Joseph McClendon III, who works closely with Tony Robbins.
Okay.
And I was fortunate enough to have a ticket which allowed me sort of more intimate access to him. So there was like a group of like 20 of us. And the whole weekend was about positivity. At the end of the weekend, I put my hand up and he's like, picked me, and I said, Joseph, all we talk about is how to be positive. But I have lots of really unpositive, like negative thoughts that go on in my head. How do I deal with them? And he gave me information that'll change my life forever. And what that was he said, when you have a bad thought, don't fight it.
Okay.
Acknowledge it. So he's like, sort of, if you want to go and, jump on a box, right? Let's just say that. He says, you're going to have a thought going, you're not going to make it. You're going to fall short and hurt your shins. There's no chance you can jump that high. The box is going to fall. You're not strong enough. And he said, what you need to do is you go, okay, you go, hi, bad thought. And then he said, you're not serving me because I'm going to jump on that box. So you can come or you can go, but I'm going to go. I'm going to come forward. So you do as you wish. So you acknowledge and talk to your bad thoughts, and they just started to disappear. That was the biggest game changer for me, or one of the biggest game changers for me. So thank you, Joseph McClendon III. I think he was just a phenomenal person to be around for 3 days. I learned so much, but the single best thing I learned from him was acknowledge your bad thoughts, and they just tend to disappear.
I think it's a great way to reframe it, because it, like you said at the start, your thoughts are not you. If they were, they wouldn't need to talk to you. But I really like that way of framing it, because it helps sort of disassociate you from the voice and from the thought, because I feel like it's quite easy to get wrapped up in the mental echo chamber with the negative thoughts. Yeah. And I really like that almost sort of back and forth. It'd be like, oh, hiya, and it's a different... Yeah,
you could even do it in the morning if you're in a bad mood. You go, okay, you're in a bit of a pop, or you're in a bit of a bad mood. Okay, well, this ain't going to serve me. So you can either stay or go, but this is what I'm going to go and do today. So you do you. And all of a sudden you can have a bit of a giggle to yourself, and the mood just starts to go. It's incredible when you figure out what to do, what you can do with your body and your mind.
Great. I love that.
It's really cool. Very liberating. You're not trapped anymore. You are free.
Because it's so easy to feel like that sometimes. And from people that I've worked with, I think I've been that person myself at times, sort of that feeling of sort of being trapped and not really understanding why.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really powerful way.
It's just me, or it's just in the family, or it's just in the DNA, or, I was born like this. No, you weren't. No.
I love that. Okay. So what is important to you in life? Now, we've talked about a lot so far, but just, I guess, kind of big picture, what's important to you in life, Gilles?
I have 5, it's a great question. I've got 5 key areas that I focus on in life.
Okay.
So number 1 is health, wealth, happiness, connections, experiences. They're my 5 life currencies.
Okay.
So health, I want to be able, I want to be pain-free, disease-free, I want to be able, I want to be active, I want to move, I want to be strong for as long as I can. I don't want to not be able to be able. So health is really, really important. And I work on that every single day. So I exercise every day from 1 hour to an hour and a half. My ice baths obviously massively help with that as well. Health, wealth, money is economic energy. I'm not saying money makes you happy. I think the journey to money can definitely make you happy, the human being you become along that journey. But it really does open up the whole world to you. And my wife says it definitely doesn't make you happy, but it definitely makes things easier and can have a lot of fun with it. And I also want to set up the future generations as well. I think it's very, very important. The gap between the rich and poor is ever growing, and I want to make sure that my family tree is on the right side, the comfortable side. The health, wealth, happiness. I work on my happiness. I just want to be happy. I want my kids to be happy, my friends to be happy, my wife to be happy, my family. I just want it to be happy. And I know that they can't be happy unless I'm happy first. If my people at work, I need to be happy, then they can be happy. So what I do is I work on my happiness every single day, as you know, we spoke about. So health, wealth, happiness, connections. Got to connect with people. Connecting with people is beautiful, We're human beings. We're meant to connect. So I constantly say yes. I constantly connect with people. I constantly make an effort to go and speak to people and go and hang out with people. I think that's really, really important. Sometimes in my day, I'll go meet a friend for coffee often. Sometimes I got some friends that we have gentleman walks in the evening between 6 and 7 before I go back to work, and we'll have a gentleman's walk, we call it, around the local park. I meet people to play tennis during the day. Sunday afternoon, I played tennis with a friend of mine. I always just want to connect with people because I think it's really, really important. The last thing, you got health, wealth, happiness, connections, and experiences. You can't take your money to your grave, but you can take your experiences. You got one life, you got one life. Like the earth is a beautiful place, and I want to go and experience it, And I just think that I don't want to be on my deathbed thinking, I wish I did that, and I should have done this, and I should have gone there, and why didn't I do this? Why didn't I do that? Like, I just want to go and enjoy life. I want to go and experience life and all the cultures, all the foods, all the festivities, all of the experiences, all of the sights with my eyes. And I just want to go out there and bring my family and friends, which I do on all my holidays, and just go and experience the world, because that's what fills my soul, As I said at the start of the podcast last year, I did 13 holidays and I was so fulfilled. I had a great year at work. I had a great year with my wife, family, and friends, and I had a great year holidaying. It was just fantastic. My dad was like, I really want to go to Iceland. So I was like, no problem. So I flew my dad over. My brother then came over, who lives in New York. My brother's a diamond dealer in New York. Yeah, you should get him on the podcast. He's a really interesting guy, super motivated. He's an epic entrepreneur. So we all went to France, where my father grew up, and he showed us where he grew up, and it was a really lovely time. And then I'm like, right, Dad, let's go to Iceland. So we jumped on a plane and went to Iceland. We hired a car. We drove around Iceland. And I remember we were driving along a national park, and as we were sort of reaching the crest of this large hill, in the distance, we could see this huge waterfall, like 100-meter waterfall. And my brother was like, we need to get in. I'm like, we're going in. And I pulled over on the side of the road. My dad's like, what's going on? I'm like, Dad, we're getting in that waterfall. He's like, you crazy? You crazy? I'm like, come on. And he went, okay, I'm crazy. That's what he said. He said, okay, I'm crazy. Let's go. So we got out of the car and we trekked all the way down this hill. It was quite full on. And we had to hold Dad because he's 74. So we're like holding him down and we're trying to get him down. And he was loving the experience. He goes, if you can do it, I can do it. And he goes, you need to keep up with me. And we were laughing and we had such a great time. And anyway, then we sort of trekked in to the waterfall, and my brother and I basically stripped off to our swimmers and then swam in the Icelandic waterfall, and it was one of the most amazing experiences. And I'll never forget it. My dad filmed it. We got it on film, and then we FaceTime Mom, and she couldn't believe it. She was really worried we'd get too cold.
and of course she is.
Of course, and it was just such a great experience, and I haven't forgotten it. And those sort of experiences and memories you take to you with your grave, and they fill my soul, and I just want more and more of them. So they're my 5 currencies: health, wealth, happiness, connections, and experiences.
That's beautiful. I've never heard that story before. I think that's fantastic. Though I don't know why, but the way that you talk about your dad reminds me of my mom's dad, my grandfather. I don't know what it is, but it's just something about the energy that I get from him. I love.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've gotten a bit deep there, which I appreciate. So I'm gonna go a little bit deeper here.
Sure.
What I want to know is, what is your biggest failure, and what did you learn from it?
Yeah, I think my biggest failure happened in my mid-20s.
Okay.
When I'd reached a certain amount of success and I stopped learning and thought that was it for learning. I was now the finished article, and I'm going to build this incredible empire. And that for me was my biggest mistake. And it was quite some years where I thought, I didn't need to learn anymore, and that was just it. The world's evolving in such a rapid pace. I think technology is increasing more and more year by year. The new generations coming through, the new way you do businesses, the new way you performance manage people, the new way that overall entrepreneurship is done is changing so fast that not only do you need to keep up with it, but you need to try and keep ahead to be able to grow a business. And I thought I knew everything in my mid-20s, early 20s. And I just thought, I look back and think to myself, how stupid. You should never stop learning. The moment you stop learning is the moment I believe you start dying.
So what was the repercussions of you not learning?
Unhappiness. Lack of success. What happened with me personally was, and I think this happens to a lot of entrepreneurs, is you still put in a lot of effort. You still put in, you try and be positive. You put in a lot of effort every single day. But what you're doing is you're putting in the effort into the old areas, the areas that are gone. And you then get frustrated that you're not getting the same results. So then you try and put in even more energy, and it becomes sort of like a frustrated energy into the wrong areas because the world has moved on. And then you get a lack of results. And then you become incredibly frustrated. You can start to lose confidence. Your mind can go in all different areas, and you become unhappy. And I felt really trapped. I'm like, I thought I was brilliant. I thought I was successful. I thought I was going to be good at this thing. And then I realized, I was starting to not be very successful, and my business was shrinking rapidly, and people were leaving my business. And I was like, why is this happening to me? I'm a great guy. And I then picked up a book, about 5 years later, and started to try and read it. And it was How to Win Friends and Influence People. And I was like second page, I was like, oh my God, I haven't been doing that. Oh, I haven't been doing that. Why have I not done that? Oh my God, this is so new. And I felt very stupid for stopping. I don't know how long I stopped learning, but let's just say it was about 5 years. Maybe it was longer. But then when I picked up a book and started to read and listen to ebooks and started to watch things on YouTube and the internet and now podcasts, you feel very liberated because you're like, I just need to keep learning to progress. So my biggest mistake was definitely thinking I was the be and the end all. My ego took over. I didn't believe I needed to learn anymore, so I stopped learning. And boy, did the universe show me I was wrong. It gave me a nice beating.
Yeah, as it tends to do.
Yeah. And then you just get more frustrated, but you put in more energy and you're like so confused, you know, and that can lead you down a very, 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 very dark path. So it's an unhappy path. And the sooner you find education for what you want to get good at, the better.
I'm sitting here having a bit of an existential crisis because I'm panicking at how I'm like, when's the last time I listened to a podcast? I don't know.
We're doing one. It's okay.
Yes,
We're doing
you're right.
one.
Yeah, you're
We're
right. But the self-education, I think, is such an important topic because it's not. It's becoming, you know, very much more in the public eye with all of these, you know, kind of higher profile podcasters, the likes of Stephen Bartlett and stuff like that. And I don't necessarily think it's you have to do it about X. You don't have to do it about mental health. You don't have to do it about sales. But it's just the action of constantly pushing yourself to learn a new thing, to learn a new skill, to develop consistently and constantly, that I feel is so important, but also is forgotten in so many aspects. You know, we go to school until we're, you know, 16, 17, 18 years old, what it is, and if you don't go to university, a lot of times it's like, all right, that's it, I'm done, I've learned.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's only the very beginning of your development as an adult and as a human being. And I think that's so important to remember, but equally it's so easy to forget.
Yeah.
That it's like, all right, cool, I've made it. You know, I'm an adult, I can function. You know, I don't need to do anymore. And that is, as you said, that's when you start to go backwards.
Yeah.
Okay, so you do, is it podcast predominantly you do? Do you do books? What, I'm looking for some suggestions.
Podcasts are my main source of education.
Great.
Because I am dyslexic, I find listening is really good. I do read books. I don't read them cover to cover. I sort of skim. I read a page here, I read a page there. I sort of learned how to read for me. And ebooks.
Okay, great. So podcasts, who do you like?
Joe Rogan.
Aside from me, obviously.
Yeah. I like Christian Dye, the extra 5%. Joe Rogan, Tim Ferriss, Andrew Huberman, Dr. Rhonda Patrick, Peter Attia, Simon Sinek, Gary Vaynerchuk, I think are my top people I listen to.
Great. Simon Sinek has some absolutely fantastic.
Simon Sinek's just the guru in leadership, especially with Gen Z. I'm also a part of a business club in Glasgow, and we do, you know, this is about 16 people that are predominantly Glasgow-based, not all, or running businesses or all doing well in their career. And that's a huge education for me, like absolutely huge education for me. And we do retreats, and we've been studying Gen Zs lately for the last sort of 6 months, which, you know, predominantly, you know, the team is Gen Z. So learning how to performance managing and relate to Gen Zs, because, you know, some Gen Zs, there's a 20-year gap. You know, some of the Gen Zs in my office and my organization across the UK, I was going door-to-door commission only in Manchester. They weren't even born. You know,
you're born 2000,
I'm older than some of their parents.
Oh, no.
Yeah, can you believe that? I'm like, really? Yeah, it's like my dad's 37. I'm like, oh God, I'm 43. I'm older than your dad. So for me, you know, learning is the absolute key. To keep learning, and different forms of learning is key. To sort of I not only try and keep up with the world, I really try and, you know, one step ahead of the world. But as long as I can keep up, then I'm good. But you've got to keep learning, and even every day, like my commute might be half an hour. I just listen to an ebook in work. On my way home, you know, I got another half an hour. So there's an hour, easy, done. And I think that just gives me great ideas for work. Gives me great ideas to use, keeps me up to date with current affairs. I absolutely love it.
Absolutely brilliant, Gilles. I definitely have some homework to do on the train home. I definitely got some time and some realizations I've had during this conversation. But I wanted to thank you so much for taking the time out
Pleasure.
to come and talk to me today.
It's been great.
And it's been fantastic. I've got some things to take home, I think, to do homework, as I said. But I definitely feel like I've got a bit of an insight into the extra 5% that really helps set you apart.
Thank you. That's great.
So aside from that, I've been Christian Dye. This is Gilles Baudet. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next time.